We all have heard the saying, first things first, right? So if I say first things first, you know what I'm implying. The fact that we need to do the things that matter most first before we do things that aren't as important. I'm trying to teach this to my boys. Do homework first, and then you'll have time to relax as I wait until Saturday to write my sermon. Right? First things first. Putting the things that matter most ahead of the things that matter little. And it also implies being and doing and giving of your time to the things that matter most and to the people that matter most, instead of letting your time go away so freely. We do this also in our spiritual life. Right? We procrastinate on the things that matter most. That idea and question that Jesus asks of all of us. Follow me. I will after I do fill in the blank. Right? That's what our gospel lesson's all about. Putting God first. And yet we actually end up putting him second, maybe third. And why is that? Well, that gospel lesson really focuses on the human nature of why we do not put God first. We put God second, or we put God third or fourth, or maybe not on our list at all. And the first, it's with those three conversations that he has with someone. Luke doesn't identify the people Jesus is talking to. He just says someone, almost forcing us to interpret that it could quite possibly be us. It was someone, but it might have been us, right? The first someone says, I will follow you wherever you go. And what does Jesus respond? Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head. See, the first is we have the desire, we have the faith in God, but we lack the commitment. We say yes to Jesus, and then we live a different way. We say yes to our faith, and we trust in God, but then we worry throughout the week. Right? There's times when we say that we have the faith, we have it deep down, but then something's holding us back from actually living that new way. And why is that? Well, I think quite possibly it's fear. We're afraid to live this new way. We're afraid that it might hurt us. We might be afraid that it might hurt someone else. We're afraid of the cost that it might incur. And so we put God second. We put God third because we're afraid to put him first. We're afraid to give God the full reign of our life. There's a modern parable, where a rich man has this beautiful mansion, and he invites Jesus to come and stay with him. And one night Jesus knocks on the door, and the man opens up the door and welcomes Jesus in, and he shows Jesus how beautiful his home is. He shows him every room, and he finally gets to a bedroom, and he says to Jesus, "This is your room. You can stay here and stay as long as you like. This is your space." And he leaves Jesus and goes to bed. Later on that night, he hears banging on the front door, and it wakes him up, and he runs down to the front door, and he sees that there's a demon outside banging on the door, trying to get in, and the man's holding the door back, and it's not easy, but it's not that hard either. And finally the demon goes away, and the man's wondering, well, why wasn't Jesus here? Right? I invited him into my house, and yet he doesn't come with all this noise. But he doesn't think too much of it, goes to bed. Happens, days go by. One night, again, he hears the banging on the front door, but it's louder, it's more intense. And he goes down to that door, and he sees that it's shaking on the hinges. And he looks through the eye hole, and he sees that it's actually 2 or 3 demons now, and he's holding it back, and it's taken all of his effort. But he's also wondering why Jesus hasn't come. Why hasn't Jesus just come and, But the whole night he's holding that door, and the demons eventually go away. And he's a little angry. Man, where's God? Next night, the door is just loud as all heck. And the house is shaking from the beating on the door. And he runs down there and he looks through the eye hole. And now he sees it's a whole legion of demons. And he's holding back this door. He's sliding and falls to his knees, and he's, doesn't think he's going to hold on much longer, but eventually the demons go away. But now he's so angry at Jesus that he goes into the bedroom and says, "Where were you? Didn't you hear those demons knocking on the door?" Jesus goes, "Not a single demon attacked this room. Whatever you have given me, I have protected." Right? We're afraid to put God first because of what it's going to cost. The second conversation Jesus says, "Follow me." And the person, that someone says, let me bury my father first. See, now the father is imagery. It's imagery that Jesus is showing us that there are parts of our life that should be put to death. There are parts of who we are that are not healthy for us, and we should let go of them. But we have grown comfortable in those characteristics and habits. We've grown comfortable with the unhealthiness in our life. And we begin to think, well, is the grass really greener on the other side? Or isn't it pretty good how I have it right here? I have conversations with people who they say a statement that implies that they are happy right where they are. People who struggle with addiction will say, well, at least I'm only hurting myself. Or this is actually good for me. Because they've grown comfortable with the unhealthiness of their life. The second reason we don't put God first is because we're comfortable with the way things are. The way things, we like it. And then finally, the last one, the person says, "I will follow you, but I need to go back and say goodbye to everyone in my house. I need to, have that one last moment with them." This is the opportunity in which we say, yes, we're going to follow Jesus. We're going to start this new life. We're going to walk this new journey. And it's great until we hit that first road bump, that first obstacle, that first trial, the hardship of this new life. Let's be honest. Living the Christian faith is hard. And it's at these moments that we begin to think, gee, it was pretty good back there. We had some good things. We had some goodness in our life back there. Israel cries out to Moses, "You took us out to the wilderness to die. It wasn't too bad in Egypt." I mean, yeah, we were slaves, and yeah, we were making bricks and everything, but we had food, right? We kind of look back to what was or what could have been. Because walking this new walk is hard. I'll be honest with you. I love what I do. I really do. I can't imagine doing anything else in my life. But this vocation has brought more tears to me than any other vocation. I've had more loneliness in my life because of this vocation than any other vocation in my life. There are times when I'm like, gee, it was pretty good being an engineer. It was pretty good making that money, It was pretty good having some friends and close friends at work and stuff. Is it worth it? Is it worth it putting God first? We're afraid to put God first. We're comfortable with the life that we have, so we don't put God first. Or maybe when we do, it just becomes too hard. And we rather have it easy. But if you have a deep personal relationship with God, and you understand what God has done for us, it is more than worth it. Think about it. God has always put us first. He's always put creation first. He wasn't afraid at what it was going to cost him. He put to death the things that divide and put a wedge between us and him. He put to death sin. And he never looked back to say, gee, creation was good when I first made it. No, he looked forward to seeing what creation will be when it's renewed, when it's recreated. God has always put us first. And when you begin to realize the depth of that, why God would do such a thing, you can't help but say, yes, I will put you first. All the people in the world that really inspire us, that we kind of stand in awe of, right? Mother Teresa, wow, what an amazing woman, right? And Desmond Tutu, right? Nelson Mandela, let's just add him there. Dietrich Bonhoeffer, what he did during war. What about Maximilian Kolbe, who gave up his life so another person can live in the concentration camp, right? We are inspired by these people because all those people put God first. They gave up everything for God to be first in their life. How do we do that? How do we put God first? Well, from one of my favorite movies by Bill Murray, Baby Steps, right? What about Bob? Baby steps, right? Every time we make that bold commitment and we say yes to Jesus, it's like we jump into the deep end of a pool only to realize that we can't swim, right? And so we panic. So we need to do baby steps. Baby steps. And one easy baby step we can take is we dedicate the first part of every day to God. I have made it a practice of mine that the very first words that come out of my mouth are words of prayer. Now, we have an agreement, God and I. He allows me to get a cup of coffee first. But first words that come out of my mouth are words in prayer. Saying good morning to God. It reminds me, when I put those first words to the Lord, it reminds me that my goal for today is putting God first. Putting God first in my actions, putting God first in my thoughts, putting God first in everything I do, in every relationship that I'm in. And the more we take these baby steps, the more we move our life to walking towards God and not away from Him. I quoted Eugene Peterson in our weekly email from his book, A Long Obedience in the Same Direction, all about worship and gathering in church and how important that is. These are all baby steps to shaping our life, to walking a journey that is going to be long, all in the same direction. And when we do that, our life shows that we put God first, not second, not third, or anywhere else on that list. And God blesses us when we do. I firmly believe this, that if you put God first in your life and everyone else in the proper order, then you become everything you need to be for every single person in your life. You love your family rightly. You love your friends rightly. You serve others rightly when you put God first. Amen? Let's pray. Lord, we are reminded of the human nature to give excuses, to give reasons why we can't do one thing or another from your gospel. Help us to remember that these are excuses. Help us to have the courage and boldness to putting you first in our life. Help us to quench the fear in us of putting you first. Help us to start feeling uncomfortable in our life as it is, to let go of the things that we truly need to let go of. And when this new walk that we are on becomes hard, help us to remember that you are walking this road with us, that you are right beside us, that you have given us friends and family to help us along the way. Lord, we pray that your Spirit helps us to acknowledge the excuses in our life, the barriers in our life, and we pray that your Son gives us the strength to knock them down so we can follow you and put you, God, first in our life. And we pray this in Christ our Lord. Amen.